Iran and the United States have been estranged for 30 years, starting with the 1979 takeover of the American embassy in Tehran during the Islamic Revolution and continuing with Iran's alleged bid to be a nuclear weapons power. But a reconciliation with Iran, not on the table during the administration of President George W. Bush, is now being discussed. Mr. Obama indicated during the political campaign that he is open to a new direction towards Iran.
And contrary to the claims of some, I have no interest in sitting down with our adversaries just for the sake of talking. But as President of the United States, I would be willing to lead tough and principled diplomacy with the appropriate Iranian leaders at a time and place of my choosing, if and only if it can advance the interests of the United States.
A thaw in the U.S.-Iran relationship would be on a par, experts say, with President Richard Nixon's surprising rupture of the long-standing freeze between the United States and communist-ruled China. But a rapprochement would require both sides to overcome contentious past and current issues. Ken Katzman, an Iran analyst at the Congressional Research Service, says not to expect a dramatic breakthrough like President Nixon's with China.
The gap, the divide, and the perceptions is so deep that I don't see that much opportunity for any sort of a grand solution or a grand reconciliation between the United States and Iran, no matter who's president.
Still, Katzman says, the nuclear issue may provide the first inkling of any change in the U.S. attitude towards Iran. Bob Baer, a former CIA officer with wide experience in the Middle East, says the Obama administration should open a back channel to Iran on an agenda for talks and then send a secret envoy to Tehran.
You know, if they refuse, or you show up in Tehran and no one comes to the meeting, well, there was your answer. You get back on the plane and come home. But you're not going to know until you actually send somebody.
Baer says Iran can be talked out of nuclear arms ambitions if offered incentives like the lifting of Western sanctions on investment and trade. But Gary Bernson, also a former CIA, says Iran's sponsorship of militant groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon makes talking to Tehran useless.
You're not going to see peaceful transition in Iran. And I think that the Iranians are on a collision course with us. And it's because they believe that terror is an effective form of foreign policy, and eventually they will act in a way where the U.S. has no choice but to use force against them.
A study by the Combating Terrorism Center at West Point says a common interest in stabilizing Iraq could provide a window to U.S.-Iranian reconciliation. Iran wields influence in Iraq through sympathetic Shiite Muslim political parties and Shiite militias. But several meetings in Baghdad between the U.S. and Iran made no noticeable progress and were not expanded to include other issues. Gary Thomas, VOA News, Washington.